Happy Saturday, or is it Sunday? Sunday. Happy Sunday. Gosh, the week is just flying by. Um, so for those of you who follows me on Facebook, I had made a post about snow, and then the day of we got a little bit of snow, and then guess what? Last night we got some snow, maybe like an inch, half an inch of snow. So the kids are pretty excited about that. But if you're on live with us, please let us know where you're watching us from. So I can start doing some shout outs. We have an awesome show for you guys today, talking about night markets and stuff. And I'll share some stuff about my childhood growing up too, because I grew up at the farmers market. So and farming. So it'll be interesting to just kind of see from a different lens, the person who coordinates and all of that good stuff. So I hope that you guys are able to stay engaged and stay with us throughout the show. Kelly and I have some announcements at the beginning, and then we'll kind of start it off. But if you're live with us, let us know where you're watching us from. Just give it a couple minutes. We're going to share this onto our personal, and then we will get started. If you can help us share as well. Hi, Rainbow. How are you? Thank you for tuning in on Sunday morning. It's 10 a.m. where we are, so I know it's a little bit later for some of you. Oh, Kelly, she must be one of your students. She says, I miss you, teacher.
Yeah, it is. Hi, I miss you too.
Okay. Oh, I'm like so achy this morning.
Me too. I feel like my face is like super swollen.
Yeah.
And I'm sharing. I think a lot of people always get confused at what I'm doing when I'm looking down the entire time. And it's like, I promise I'm sharing. I'm not just like over here like, like I don't know what's going on.
Callie's always sharing. And so, we kind of share the duties at the beginning, or throughout the show, really. So she can share it onto her page and some of the other pages that we are a part of. And then, I usually do shout outs. So let us know where you're watching us from if you are live with us. Hi, Chi. I know it is. She says, so early. I just woke up an hour ago. Yes.
I know. You know what? We know you're in bed just like on social media, so at least come hang out with us.
Yeah.
This is definitely earlier than what we usually do, but
yeah.
We're excited to have this conversation, especially as we, move into the new year. I feel like this topic is going to be really interesting for even if you're not looking into creating a shop or a night market where you are. I think it's still very relevant if you're trying to create a brand or build something from the ground up. I think the information today is going to be super useful and super interesting.
Yeah, agreed. Rita says, who is joining you ladies in today's talk? Well, I guess you just have to tune in for another 3 more minutes to find out, Rita. Happy Saturday.
Yeah. Oops, I promise.
We're almost ready. I need to take my kids to go take pictures with Santa. I've missed 2 years, and my kids, they don't even look the same anymore. So I got to go back.
All right. Shall we get started?
Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, happy Sunday. I said it right this time instead of the first time. I can't believe it's already Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your co-host, Olivia.
I'm Callie.
And today we are going to be talking to our guest, Jessica Chen, about really kind of building something from having absolutely nothing from ground zero. And so I think that it's going to be a really interesting conversation. Lots of good things I'm sure we're going to ask her, and she's going to share about lessons learned and things of that nature. So thank you for tuning in. We hope that you guys stay engaged. If you have questions for Jessica, please make sure you put them down in the comment section, and Kelly and I will grab them and ask her.
Yep. So before we do that, let's do some quick announcements. Again, we are going to be in Fresno for the Fresno Hmong New Year. And the Hmong New Year is today, or not today, but this year, just 4 days. It's going to be December 30th through January 2nd. We are only going to be there for 2 days. So we're going to be there Friday and Saturday. We put a map of where we're going to be. I know it's a little bit confusing because the fairgrounds is quite large, but we're hoping that you'll be able to come find us. We'll be close to like where the stage place is, just like there's the second tents and stuff behind. But we will have announcements coming up on what we plan to do. And we really hope to see a lot of you guys out there if you are planning on attending the Fresno Hmong New Year. We are still accepting applicants for the Love Vault. I was like checking our inbox and there were just some really cute people in there. So, and I'm talking about the girls, but and so definitely still apply for the Love Vault. And then, of course, wanted to do a quick reminder of Jamie's MTT International concert that is going to be happening on Christmas Day. So it's such a perfect time for people to, you're going to be with family anyways. And so definitely tune in. You can tune into it on Facebook. It's going to be on her Facebook page, Jamie Official. And she's gonna have like Meng Bang, Li Gong, Luya, Mai Moa, and just some of the classic singers that we have in our community. And so definitely please tune in, turn it on, even if it's just in the background. But it's going to be just a great time to support them. And again, it's completely free. And so hopefully you guys can be able to enjoy this with your family. Again, it's going to be on Christmas Day at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Whew, that was a lot of update, guys.
I know. Is there anything else? Did I miss anything?
No. I was just gonna say that we put a post up about the giveaway, and I know it's a bit confusing for some of you. I've been seeing a lot of like just posts on who you guys think is the winner, but you actually have to fill out the bracket and send it to us in order to enter the competition. So Kelly and I will come on live a little bit later today or after this show to kind of talk with you guys a little bit more about the process of doing that, just so that there's more of you who are submitting, and the likelihood of you, I mean, it's great if only 2 people do it, because then the likelihood of someone winning is awesome. But we also want most of you to participate, because we know you guys have been commenting and liking and things like that. So
yeah, and so we put the pictures up for the purpose of the bracket, but you actually cannot vote yet until Tuesday. We decided to give an extra day to complete the bracket. And so, again, like how you can submit for the bracket winner portion is just to fill out the bracket. So we will, again, like Olivia said, go a little bit more into detail and then do a post later just with the bracket. So hopefully that'll be less confusing. I wanted to throw all the information to you guys all at once, but I think that ended up being a little bit more confusing. So, all right. Well, today we have Rita. Was it Rita? Rita was asking who was joining us, and our guest today is Jessica Chen. And Jessica is the founder of Night Market Vancouver and Pop Local. So that is Night Market Vancouver in Washington and not Canada. I always have to do that little clarifying there. Night Market Vancouver is an ongoing family-friendly maker marketplace, and each monthly event showcases up to over 90 local vendors and features live music, a DJ, rotating entertainment, food, and drinks. Night Market Vancouver brings thousands of members from the community together to celebrate the local culture and support of small independent businesses. And then when COVID hit, of course, that made Night Market a lot harder to just operate. And as we were all navigating, she was also navigating that with her business. And so she decided to focus on building a store that will support local makers, crafters, and artisans throughout the pandemic. And so we are really excited to talk to her about what Pop Local looks like as well. And it's going to be opening at the Vancouver waterfront, which is a beautiful, beautiful place. One of my favorite places here where I live. And so with that, I'm going to bring her on.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Jessica.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good. How are you, Rosemary?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for making time for Callie and I.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate you guys thinking of me for this. So
Yeah. So I didn't even really know about the night market until Callie was mentioning it to me, and I didn't get a chance to make it out this year. But I'm so excited to hear all about it. I
yeah.
think it's
Oh, go ahead.
I've only grown up on like the farmers market during the daytime, and so I don't really know what the difference is, but I would love to kind of just hear from you just because I don't know much about it, but I know that last Saturday was your guys' last night of the market. So how are you feeling?
Good. Yeah, it was actually last night. So
Oh, okay, yeah.
yeah, there was a Santa opportunity. You have missed it was good. It was an amazing last event to wrap up the year. Good turnout, really good energy, and people were dancing, lots of families, and we had llamas and Santa kind of as our fun holiday festivities. And it just, when you start seeing people coming, it just makes you feel like all the hard work is worth it when you see happy vendors and they're doing good sales, and you create a safe space, for families to come and gather. So, and as we were leaving last night, it just started snow falling heavily. It was like, all right, this is one way to wrap up the end of the year. So, I also feel relieved since market will be wrapped up, and now my focuses are with the store, since we'll be doing our grand opening for the store come January. So,
Yeah, and we had a Olivia Singh was a vendor for night market, when she was here.
In Vancouver?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So one of her friends, she made dolls, and so she was a vendor there, like, I mean, before COVID. So I feel like that was like ages
So
ago.
long ago.
I know.
cool.
And then I was able to attend gosh, was it last month? I think it was last month. And then with the live DJ, and my daughter was like dancing. So it was just a lot of fun. Like it was just really, really nice to I think go back after COVID and everything, just to feel like there's still a community there. And especially, with all the local vendors and smaller businesses, that they have a place that they can go and showcase their stuff.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background and just what motivated you to start Night Market Vancouver.
So my background's honestly a little all over the place, but leading up to ultimately what I'm doing now, I've definitely been a creative. I've always loved making things when I was little, or painting, or whatever it was. In college, I studied business and advertising, and then industrial design, which is essentially product design. I've worked in an array of different jobs. So from working at my family's restaurant as a kid, and then wanting to get paid on my own, I went into like Baskin Robbins, hopped around Pinkberry, went to personal training, and eventually a lot of freelance work to get through college, primarily doing like advertising, graphic design. And then up until I launched my first product and company, which was Wink Pens. That got me into the maker community, which grew my love for small businesses and crafters and artisans that share that journey, and eventually opening Night Market, which sort of lines up with all that, and giving a space to support a lot of those businesses.
Yeah. So what were some of your challenges along this journey, and what did you learn from it?
There's always a lot of them. There's a lot of things that you don't just don't know, going into, like, I've never worked in events. Prior to doing that, I owned a manufacturing company for pens, and that was like my first product to market. And so I started on the vendor side of things, just setting up for markets and promoting my own products. So switching to being on the management side of things, you're seeing things that you're just never aware of. And so, and it's everything, I think, when you set up your first business, from like, oh, how do I submit for my insurance, or like the right permitting, or there's, figure out your layout. And I think just being open to that and learning as you go. And knowing that things aren't ever going to go completely like how you planned or expect the unexpected. But I don't know. I guess there's always new challenges there.
Yeah. So when you first we're going to start Night Market Vancouver. Yeah, but I think, I mean, the Portland night market had been ongoing for, quite some time, right? Did you model after that? Did you feel like, the folks over here just weren't going over to, because we're just right across the water, from Portland. And so, what made you think like we needed a night market here in Vancouver?
Totally. So I lived in Portland right before I moved to Vancouver, and I followed an ex across the bridge. And being a small business with my other company in Portland, there are just so many resources available for different makers and markets just in general. So from farmers markets to makers markets to night ones, when I moved over, there just didn't seem to be the same amount of resources or any markets that I knew of at that time. And I was at the time working at a co-working space in downtown Vancouver, just trying to meet people. And I had run a couple small pop-ups in the past for Mother's Day's events. And I knew the night market in Portland. Night markets are very common in other countries that tend to focus around food, and just the evening atmosphere, and to pair that with not just being able to walk through a market, but you're creating this unique experience that embodies so much more. That really, I don't know, excited me. That concept did, and the first coined night market per se in Vancouver was October 2017, I believe, and probably just had 20 or so vendors, piggybacked off of First Friday, which is an art walk that happens downtown Vancouver, just to see what the demand would be. I did the first few events for free, and just seeing the first turnout when we started promoting it, and how many vendors really needed this. Like the demand was obviously, it was very apparent that it was there, and we needed something like this to draw people in and to bring people together. So just seeing how everyone came together, not just on the vendor side, but customers coming through, families, and how it drives and activates the whole area, the downtown that we were at. I knew I couldn't really let it go, and so continued growing it from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think, Olivia, we've gone to First Friday. I think it was the time we went to go get our palms read. I think that was if you remember that. I mean, which feels so long ago again, but I think we have gone to a First Friday.
Yeah, I think we did. So I'm curious, like, what's the season for the night market? Because I know, like, there's a Vancouver's farmers market that's like almost like, I feel like it's almost year round, because they start really early and they end later than most of the farmers market on Saturdays. So is the night market kind of like from a certain time to a certain time only? I know that yesterday was the last day. Is it because of just winter and there's just not people less interested, or?
So I work closely with the farmers market too. We're like advocates of one another. And so farmers market tends to run, I believe, normally until October, but because of COVID and because they're not holding their indoor holiday market that they normally do, they've extended their outdoor season to help a lot of those makers. So you do see that extending longer. Because our market is primarily indoors, we're year round, except for January, just because that one's so slow right after the holiday season. So January we usually take off, and then we'll pick up again in February, and then basically do it all year. And summertime, it just, depending on what venue we're at, because we've moved a few times due to COVID and different factors, our summer events tend to just grow as far as the footprint grows, just because we can fit more outdoor and more food trucks and that sort of thing. But this venue that we were at last night, it's been great. It's essentially a huge warehouse. I think it's 25,000 square feet or so, a little bit more. And so we were able to get just over 100 vendors in there, plus our DJ and live music, and still have like plenty of space for everyone to be able to wander, and have like high ceilings. So with COVID and everything, like that airflow is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I just think it's amazing to just for you to organize such events and to have it continuing and managing that and coordinating all of that.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a little crazy at times, but once you start seeing people come together and like you see vendors doing well, and they're just excited, then it all comes together. It's worth it for sure.
Yeah. And so in 2020, we had COVID-19 happened. And so, and I'm sure you're seeing the growth in the night market. But then that happens. And so what made you decide to pivot, and like, how did you decide, what your next steps were going to be?
Yeah. 2020 was a crazy year. For everyone, right? It's like but I also think challenges always push innovation. And when that stuff happens, you see a lot of businesses that have unfortunately closed, but so many that have opened. And we've had so many new vendors and makers too that have been born out of the pandemic, and they've like focused on this for the first time. So it's neat to see. But we were like being in live events, and like we just couldn't be open. So it was like the event side of things was just shut down completely for a while, and it was really scary. And there's a few things that I had tried. We were like selling digital coupon books or trying to help like support vendors, and nothing seemed to really engage. And a good friend of mine who owns Most Everything Vintage downtown, like a beautiful antique store downtown, I would help her with a fashion show event, and there was a space that opened up right next to her little shop that eventually they planned to use as like an event speakeasy with events and happening. But she's like, Jess, can you do anything with the space? Eventually, like, we're going to turn this into a bar and an event space, but like right now it's the worst time. Like, can you do anything with it? And I was just like, I'll take it. Like, I have no idea what I'm going to do yet, but I think it's about 900 square feet. And I always believed that Vancouver needed some kind of retail home that focused on local products. We have a lot of similar stores like that in Portland. I'd say not quite so hyper local. So like Vancouver, Portland, within an hour of that radius to like really keep it home. And I remember talking to the Downtown Association director about it like a couple years ago, and he's like, Jess, why don't you do it? And I was like, that just seems like inventory hell. Like, I don't want to deal with that. That sounds crazy. So, but then that's like exactly what I'm doing now. So I think once you figure out a foundation and a routine, it seems much more approachable. At that time, it was like a scary concept. But so I ended up getting a really flexible lease option with that. And the concept of Pop Local was ultimately born from creating a space where I could house a lot of the same products from vendors, but not require them to set up. So vendors essentially just drop off their inventory, and then we take care of all like the curation, the merchandising, created and displays, and then sell their products, and then they get paid out once a month. So it allowed me to eventually I'm trying to think when we had opened in 2020. I think in the summertime, like early summer, and once we were around the holiday season of 2020, we had over 70 vendors that we were able to represent in like a 900 square foot space. So the location was definitely hard to work with. There's not a storefront. It's almost down the street that's a little bit more lit up now. But at that time, there was like the street lights were out, and there's like a homeless camper and like a little door next to a barber shop, and you have to walk down this hallway.
Oh goodness.
And Google Maps would even put us for some reason on the other side of the block. So, I mean, you had to really look for us. And so like holiday, we did great there. And it was really nice and to know that we had a loyal following from night market who would like purposely seek us out for the holidays, since so many events were shut down. Felt very fortunate about that, but we definitely struggled with any kind of organic traffic or people finding us that wanted to find us and they couldn't, so, but that was a perfect way to test concept and get proof that there was a demand for this. And vendors needed a place to have a retail opportunity where instead of just doing markets all the time, to have face-to-face with customers, now people could get their products consistently. So yeah, we closed that store. I had connected with one of the building owners down at the waterfront. So River West will be right across from Wildfin and Twigs, if you're familiar with right down where the waterfront is. So, and I think, the building owners have been great. So we worked out like a pitch with them and, got that in motion. And so now I have a lease, and we've been been focusing on building that store out. So Pop Local will be its own brick and mortar. So it's a separate entity than Night Market, but they're just promoted as sister companies. And definitely excited to bring some local culture to that area. The new store is about it's 2,400 square feet. But after we build out storage, it's about 2,000 square feet of actual retail floor space.
Wow.
We have a bunch of new things coming in there that I'm excited about. We're working with this potted elephant. They have the coolest exotic house plants that you see.
Mhm.
So we're adorning the shop with house plants. The vibe in there is very homey and modern. It's got a little rustic feel to it. Or like suspended pallets from the ceiling, like navy blue walls, accent walls, concrete floors. We're adding this grab and go section of the store, so we'll have like beer and wine. We can actually do like wine tastings in the shop, so you can come sip and try. I'm like planning to showcase the wineries right around us because there's 6 tasting rooms around us now. So
Mhm.
customers, while they're waiting an hour to get into a restaurant, can like come sip on some wine, learn about the brands, and we really like focus on sharing the stories behind each brand. So we're excited to get that going, but the build out has been taking a lot longer than expected. Definitely excited about that one because we'll have a little bit of everything, I think, in there. So
When does it open?
I just made a post yesterday about how we have to push till like after Christmas time, which like killed me because I just been working so hard at it. But just realistically, all our vendors are just so focused on their own holiday sales right now,
Yeah.
and will have enough inventory. There's been so much anticipation and excitement about the store. At this point, I'm like, I'd rather us open when we're fully ready and we're fully stocked for
Mhm.
customer vendor sake. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I felt a little heartbroken to make that post, and like some of my vendors were like, but my vendors were like, "Oh my god, thank God, Jess!" So like, we're all aligned, and it'll happen when it's meant to. And in January, we can put the new year strong and like really plan around doing a big ribbon cutting and being excited for that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It sounds so exciting. I'm excited for the Pop Local with all like you're
Yeah.
so descriptive of like what the space looks like and just, the purpose of it. I think that, people will really, really appreciate it. So I'm really excited about that. And I'll definitely be there, to kind of
yes, thank
see
you.
what it looks like and of course to support you as well.
Awesome.
So you fundraised for Pop Local. How was it like fundraising and what did you think helped made you successful?
It was so we ran a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo, and I've had experience doing crowdfunding in the past, and it can be such a good marketing tool. So essentially, like my whole goal was just doing that was for the marketing aspect of it and to share a story and to let people know we're coming. And obviously, if we can make some money off of that too to support our build out, like that's huge for us. So I think the storytelling element for crowdfunding is the most important to me with that, and to capture a story of like why we exist and to highlight why it was is important, especially now, going through COVID and all the small businesses and how they could benefit from that, um, and just getting the word out. And so we were able to, with my goal being marketing, we were able to get really good local press coverage. We had Coin,
Mhm.
KBW, and Columbian cover it, and so um, that alone just helped us a lot. And we did like meet our goal. I think we set it at like 5,000. We are doing these custom name tiles for anyone who wanted to like support our store. Then they could get their like name engraved on this art installation that I like built out when we're putting on a wall. It's kind of like this is our foundational roots,
Yeah.
just to make it really collaborative with everyone and get the excitement going for it. One of the shop motto that I come up with for everything that we stand for in the store is we support those who dare to dream and have the passion to create. And seeing all our vendors come together, we did this group photo, and it was like a last minute ask for a lot of it. My vendors are like, "Hey, if you can show up, I have this idea for like crowdfunding photo." It'd be like so, I think, compelling to actually show the faces of all these brands. And we had a huge group show up for that, and so to see what we're building, and like this is for them. I think it's just really valuable in that sense to show why we exist. So
yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
think involving the people that it's going to impact, I think that is kind of what made it successful, right? Like,
yeah,
because you need to get their buy-in first, and then because they are so bought in and really believe that it is a safe space for them for creating, I think then it just kind of like exudes out to everyone else who's really just looking at it to see if it's something they're interested in supporting. So I love that aspect that you involved the people it's impacting. I think that made a huge difference.
yeah, agreed.
And so, building a brick and mortar, what's been the most surprising thing about, I think I've seen some of your posts with your pictures working really late. All that. So what's been like the most surprising, hardest thing?
Well, it's crazy because right now, just in construction and everything else, like supply chain is a huge issue and inflation of costs. So, like trying to buy lumber, and a lot of my stores is wood, So I had like these pallets that we had built. One of my vendors were helping me with, and just the cost for everything was it's so like it's expected knowing it, but when you see that, I'm just like, ugh, I don't want to be in debt forever, And so, um, and like even things that you try to plan around, like I knew supply chain was going to be an issue, and so like just as an example, something that I'm still waiting for now is these steel store fixtures. I ended up paying a premium for so we could get them manufactured here and not have to deal with all the shipment and the cargo and getting stuck in that. And then we just ended up with a bad, like a company that was really disappointing, and they ghosted on our order for a good couple months, and like we had to kind of take threaten legal action lightly, and now they're going to ship them to us. And so it's just like you do what you can, and there's always going to be challenges that come out of that, and you just don't expect them. Yeah, it's been neat to build initially sort of this guide in my head that makes sense of like what everything's going to look like, and then once you start installing things and actually feeling out the space while you're in there, you're constantly shifting things. So a lot of it's been such a learning process. Like I've done product design, but space design and like feeling out the flow of things and ergonomically like how things are going to fit. Like I want everything to be ADA friendly, and so or we need to. So just a lot of that is just it's a constant learning experience through all of it. But it's been rewarding, and I've been building it a lot myself too, which is probably why Kelly's seeing a lot of that. And I think it'll just be a lot more, when we finally open, looking back to see how far it's come, it'll just mean a lot more. And I'm working with a lot of my vendors too, like independent contractors. So it feels more meaningful, and I feel like my vendors are sort of building the shop with me. We're all in this together. So it's been a ride. We're getting close now. So January's right around the corner.
Yeah. So Kelly, did you ask the last question?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So obviously you working on this, you're not alone. You do have a team behind you. So what is your leadership style like, and what has been the hardest thing about leading for you?
I have a very small team, and like that I just built over the last year. Essentially I've been working on my own, and I've never really had that before. And so I don't know, I feel very immensely grateful. I grew up in a household where it's like you can do everything yourself, and so, but to a fault, and that so learning to delegate and knowing that I can trust into people now. I make sure to show them that, and I stay very involved, and I work extremely hard and hope that those actions inspire them. And I expect my team to do the same, and they absolutely will or have too. And they've just gone above and beyond, and we've formed a bit of a family, yet we can still really get stuff done together. And so I love the ladies that are a part of my team now, and just thankful for them. And it's neat because they fully believe in our company vision so much so, and what we're building beyond just working for me. And I think that really drives, the heart of everything that we're doing.
Yeah.
What words of advice would you give for people starting out and not knowing who to ask or where resources are? I think as I'm listening to you, it does sound also easy. Make it, like
Mhm.
my friend told me about this space and I got into it, but I think that it's probably, been kind of a journey, right? To kind of figure out like, who do I go to ask for this? Or, what's my next steps? And so maybe you can talk us through just like, anyone wanting to start something new, build something from the ground up.
I guess honestly, like expect to fail and to know that things aren't ever gonna just go perfectly as planned, but welcome that. I think if you're fluid and willing to pivot, listen, adapt, and grow, like those failures and how you choose to rise through them ultimately define you as a business owner and set you apart from someone else. And you use those hardships and your willingness to grow in that dedication is your biggest learning lessons, is your strengths. Sometimes customers or the market may drive you in a completely different direction that you weren't expecting, but so just don't ignore that and be open to that.
Yeah. I think like being like I kind of shared a little bit earlier, but like growing up, like my parents were farmers, so I grew up at the farmers market, and it's just so interesting to kind of like, because all you do is really like you put in an application on the vendor side, right? You put in the application and then you pay the fee and then you show up hoping that people are just going to show up and buy your stuff. But I think like you don't really see all of the admin stuff in the background from the management team about like marketing and again kind of like designing the space, figuring out who goes where, making sure that the flow is easy. And of course with COVID, I think even like when we went to the Vancouver's farmers market, like there's only one entry point and one exit point. And I think just kind of like working behind the scenes to make sure that everything flows well, it's a lot of work. And I don't think that people realize that when you go to a farmer's market, you really just enjoy like what they've put together. But can you share a little bit about like just all of the administration work on your end? I'm curious to know, just because I've never seen it from that lens before, about just how much work you put into doing all of that, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure you have to like coordinate with like the county or, whoever it is that you need to get the night market started.
for sure. I mean, I think a lot of people think like, hey, we're just gonna put on this event and people will
Yeah.
show up, and there's a reason that that doesn't happen, because there's so
Mhm.
much coordinating as far as just like marketing and branding that goes behind that, and working with community partners and getting those permits or whatever you need depending on where you're at, and really establishing, I think, connections with each individual business
Mhm.
is so important. And so I'm constantly like I know there's, vendors have gone to like recent markets too, and they're like, oh my gosh, we didn't hear back from like any of these details on like how to set up or what to do, like where to tag us. And so the more tools that you can give each individual business when they arrive, or like to help them continue to grow and to work together as a collaborative event, like that's so important, and how you set the tone for um, the whole space. So I think a big difference, I think, between the farmers market, besides just being daytime and the evening, we focus a
Mhm.
lot on crafters. We have some food, but like the environment in the night market is sort of like a party like atmosphere in the evening. So you walk in and like depending on where music is laid out and how it's like, how that affects the relationship between vendors and customers, or things that are engaging for families or entertainment and all those things, like those all need to be planned around. So we just thinking about the entertainment we had lined up for this one, like all that needs to get coordinated pretty like structurally, and
Right.
then the value of your market goes up and you're able to create a space for customers that want to come back because they had not just like a beautiful shopping experience, but they're like, hey, we were able to like enjoy live music, have food and drinks, have like we had a few guest instructors this time that does a DJ, and we had like Zumba, bachata lessons, and salsa dance lessons, and we had our llamas come through, and so it's like now becomes an event, it's not just like we love the maker market, and they're able to support businesses and connect, but you're creating an atmosphere that they're already, happy to come into, and it sets the right vibe. And there's so many key pieces to that, from like music, lighting to, how you get there. And so I don't know, I'm kind of rambling. But my mind is like scrambling pretty much up until we start. And I'm like, okay, is electrical all lined up? Do vendors have lighting, or like Wi-Fi, is an issue this time, or like potential trip hazards, or where all our signs are. And so each event, there's always room to improve. And so we always just have a list of like, oh shoot, we need more signage outside to like point people here, because everything needs to be smooth, because if a customer has a bad experience for the first time, like to get them to come back is much harder,
Yeah.
So you need to nail it from the first time. And that's on the vendor side of it too. Like if the vendor has a bad show, whether or not that's a factor of us or not, but they still feel valued, like, we want to give them everything that we can as far as tools, and like to set them up for good sales, because that first experience will stick with them, or any negative experience in general. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that doesn't happen,
Yeah, I definitely feel like a successful event is one where, like a customer comes in and they don't see any of that chaos, even though there's a lot of chaos happening in the background, like running around. I think it's that experience of just coming in and like, like when I came, and it was just, it felt very like flawless, and, like the DJ were doing their own thing, the vendors were there, the people making food were, and then it all comes together. And again, I know there's a lot of stuff that goes in the background that's happening. But when I walk away and I feel like, oh my gosh, my kids enjoy this, my friends enjoy this, it makes it, for a great event.
I definitely know for that one specifically, I remember we were struggling with like lighting as an example, because it was getting darker, lighter, and there was just no lights in that courtyard. So I ended up renting, we rented a bunch of extra generators and like set up these huge stadium lights. But like we're doing that, like I'm doing that myself, and those are like 50-pound lights, 2 little girls like trying to set all this up. And so a lot of that stuff people just don't even think about, for sure. And like for the most part, like up until this last year, like I am a one-man team. I do everything up until day of, and we just didn't have the funding to be able to support that. And it's hard because we can't hire a setup staff. So we're just like doing the tear down, like before we do setup and tear down in the same day. And that's like a 15-hour day. I'm like, oh my God, I need like younger kids with better backs at this point. So we've definitely seen models where, that now we have a small entry fee. And like this last time we were able to like donate a portion of those proceeds to a nonprofit. And now I have able to have a team that we can like have some help with social media and doing marketing and doing a lot of that back end work. So, and we can bring in better entertainment. And I think that value of what we can give, is going to just continue to grow. So, it's always a learning curve. And each time we move spaces too, there's always a set of new hurdles. This last one we had just a scare. The warehouse is definitely, it wasn't meant for events. And, there was one bathroom. And so we added a bunch of like porta potties, and there was no access that was ADA friendly into the warehouse. So I had to figure out this 40-foot ramp to put up to a bay door, because you can only climb about an inch, that's safety for wheelchairs. And so ended up spending like $4,000 on a ramp just to make an entrance into the warehouse, and stuff like that. We just, we don't really think about, but there's a little bit of a lip on the ground, like on the road outside. And we had somebody fall on that, and that was really scary.
Yeah.
So now we're like just painting all that, and like just, so a lot of that's working with the building and just the things that we just don't plan for, that arise. And we just need to make sure everything's smooth, from parking to getting set up to being able to use the bathroom. So, but yeah, so it's been learning process for sure.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about your team? Because even for Libby and I, as we're planning, we're gonna go down. So there's a big Hmong New Year that's in California, and so we have this booth. So we're gonna be kind of like a vendor. But even like planning all of that has been like reaching out to
Crazy.
people, and then we still have to do social media, and
Yeah,
we don't have
exactly.
any background. So we have been like this whole time that we've done this show, we've done all sorts of stuff. Like we've learned along the way, and so just as you're talking about your team, like I'm curious, like, are you with the vendor? Are you dealing with the vendors? Are you dealing with your, just
How do you separate all the work or
Yeah.
delegate the work?
I have a lot of sticky notes. On the real though, I'm a huge list maker, and over the years, like I figured out how to kind of organize like Excel sheets too for certain things. But I do work with all the vendors though. Like a bulk of my mornings is just answering questions because vendors always have questions on things, and I feel like I've done my job when I send out my booth assignments in a map and like this whole like guide. If I only get like 10 questions, I'm like, okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
It's usually like, where do I park? Where do I unload? All those questions. And so just seeing if wherever I can answer that before it gets asked, just to reduce the workload on my part, like is amazing. And making it easy to follow on those kind of guides as far as like event prep. But because we onboard a number of new vendors each month, so we always leave a set number of booths so that there's opportunity for new vendors to come on the entire year. Because I know that was something that the farmers market, they have like a application that happens once a year, and then you're sort of locked into those vendors. So I wanted to really have an opportunity where new vendors were always had a chance to get in. But that's a lot of curation and stuff each month. And so it's just it's definitely Excel sheets, sticky notes, and like just digital lists that transfer between the two. But I'm definitely a list maker. Yeah.
And probably working all the time.
Yeah, I did bring on some help this year with my social media, and so she's going to be one of my employees over at Pop Local soon. So that has helped a lot. And then, but right now I'm still doing all the back end work. Once the store launches, then I'll officially have a couple people that are like more consistently on with me. But it'll be nice to spread the work a little.
Yeah.
It gets crazy for sure, and I think I'm very structure and schedule oriented. So like if Monday says like my social media day, I'll do all like the posts and plan for that. And then I have to switch gears because otherwise I'll get too stuck on one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's been fun for Callie and I to plan all this stuff that we're doing, but it's also like so time consuming, especially because we don't really have a team. It's just us doing everything. And like Callie said, it's kind of like, we'll just do it and then we'll learn from it, or people will point out things to us and we're like, crap, we should have done it this way. So it's just a lot of like mental lessons learned that then we'll apply to like our next thing that we're doing.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
it's a learn and grow.
Yeah.
And learn. Yeah. All right. So if people are interested in either the night market for the Vancouver night market or the Pop Local as a vendor, what is the process and how do makers and creators get a spot as a vendor?
Yeah, all our applications are online. So nightmarketvancouver.com is the website for that. Since we have January off, we'll probably won't start reviewing a new set of applications for February market till end of January. But all the information's on there. You can submit, basically it breaks it down for you and as an application. And then same thing with Pop Local. So Pop Local is just poplocalvancouver.com. If you're a brand that wants to get products in there, I'll start like diving into those pretty deeply this week. We're starting the onboarding process now. And so we'll start intaking product, but like with that store too, there's constantly change happening with seasons, and customer demand and sales ultimately drive like what we're selling in store. So you'll see a lot of consistent return favorites and also fun things that will naturally rotate out through the season, whether or not it's a jewelry maker that has a new line that they want to launch with us and then showcase that each season, or clothing will naturally change. So it keeps the store exciting, and then it keeps, you know, our consistent products like food and consumables that are there consistently, which is fun too.
Yeah.
So is there like specific, you know, types of vendors that you're looking for, or is there, you know, like, are you pretty open to, you know, most vendors?
For night market, it's much more open. I would say with Pop Local, we're looking for more established brands, you know, just to keep up with inventory, and that do have like solid business licenses and like a more modern contemporary style. A lot of Pacific Northwest, now Vancouver focused products, because we'll act as a gift store as well. You know, there's in Vancouver, I don't know if there's really any stores that you can go to get something that's like very Vancouver made, you know, but instead of going to just like a tourist store and getting a shot glass or something, like you can buy something from some like a family or an individual, like where it's made here and you have this beautiful story with it, and it's made from our neighborhood. So we're focusing on Vancouver products there. But really any category, we're pretty open there. You know, anything from bath and body to food and snack to plants and apparel to art and stationery. So we have a little bit of everything. So we try to keep it really diverse in there.
Yeah. So it is really just as easy as going online and filling out the application.
Yep.
And then you will just then be in touch if they kind of meet what it is that you guys are looking for.
Yep. Yeah. The application process itself is pretty easy. So.
Yeah. Very cool. That's how I remembered it too.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's, and I think too, like you do kind of have to make it easy for people, right? Because some people may not be like super tech savvy, right? Because it's not like they can print out the application and walk it up to you as the manager, management, and like have you look at it, right? It's so different because I think even like all the farmers markets now, and I keep comparing it to that because that's all I know. Like that's how simple it was for us when I was helping my mom and like my in-laws do it. It's just a matter of doing it online. So I think it makes it easy for everyone.
Yeah. It's, I would say like once for like Pop Local, once we get into like once a vendor is accepted, we do have like a more extensive onboarding process where you'll, you know, like we need to submit all your product photos and your like line sheets. And because I build a brand profile for each vendor on our website, then we're like, we need a portrait, you know, photo of this and your story and your like pitch, you know, so it becomes a little bit more. But once you have the upfront work, I think it's so worth it, because then as customers like browse your products in our store or online, then if they want to read more about your story, you know, and why you started and your mission, then they can see all that in a beautiful format. So
Yeah, I love that. All right, so how can people connect with you and support you?
We are on, as far as social media, we are on Instagram and Facebook for both. So Night Market Vancouver, just at Night Market Vancouver, and then Pop Local is at Pop Local Vancouver for both Instagram and Facebook, and you can follow our journey there. Because our store won't quite be open by Christmas time, we are starting to just push out like digital gift cards. So if you're looking to gift something for someone, where they can come and shop local once we open, that's a great way to support our store as we are, you know, finishing our last bits of our build out right now.
Yeah. Very cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And I'm so excited to have a space like that at the Vancouver waterfront. I mean, I think the Vancouver waterfront,
It's beautiful.
yeah, it's beautiful. It's great that we have it. You know, we don't have to go across the bridge to, you know, have a good time. And so having a space like that, like you said, I've had to wait a long time for reservations over there, and we still hang out and like enjoy ourselves like by the water. But I think it'll be nice to have just more places that you can kind of go into and you know, shop and look around while you wait for your dinner reservation. So thank you so much for doing that, and for just, even Night Market Vancouver, I think that was just a cool thing for you to do and to bring to just more things happening in Vancouver. So again, that we don't have to go across the water. It seems like it's this like barrier of some sort for us here in Vancouver to drive across. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah. No, I definitely see a lot more people moving up here. I like joke about how our waterfront's like baby Canada. It's so clean and beautiful.
It's a tease.
Yeah. But
so new. Yeah, it's definitely beautiful there. Well, thank you again for being with us today, and thank you for everyone for joining us. Of course, here at All That Talk, we believe that conversations drive change, and change starts with you. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.